take a product, first there are people who need to define the product. Like they want to have a better camera in a cell phone. A marketing person or a product marketing engineer or a product owner who needs to define what is a better camera. Is she a designer? No. When we plan the chip itself, we need to now have a test plan. So the validation engineer is and the architect. A very good verification engineer is always better than a mediocre design engineer, right?
Hey, hello, hi. So I know all of you love to hear from me and you want to know more about inside of VLSI industry. But I am just 1 year old at the VLSI industry. So if I tell you I have somebody who is already working in the VLSI industry for last 30 plus year, 3 decades, probably many of you haven't born their time. So isn't PA exciting thing? So today we have with us the principal engineer of Intel, Mr. Anil Kumar with us. And in simple word, principal engineer are like, they are the engineer in a domain where they execute the principal role to shape any product you see in the market today. And Anil is a system architect at IoT group of Intel, and he is also a certified life coach. So we have many questions piled up for him to be answered, and we will know his story also, like how he started in India and now he is sitting in US and doing great there. So if you are excited like me, then please like this video right now and motivate us to bring more such wonderful content in future. Let's get started. So hi Anil, good evening.
Oh, and you're Rajdeep.
Yeah. So actually it's really a pleasure to talk with you. All of my audience are fresher, like maximum of they are freshers and few of them are still student, like they want to be in VLSI industry. And for you, you already have 20 actually I'm wrong, 30 plus year of experience in VLSI industry. So my first question would be like, as a fresher, how should we build up to our career so that we can reach up to your position?
Yes, great question, Rajdeep. What I would say is, when I started my career, I had no clue that it would be like this. But in school, I knew after finishing school or towards the final year, I thought what kind of jobs I would like or I would prefer to do, right? So electronic circuit design, especially IC design, was a coveted thing for at that time too. So it was new and emerging in India. So I wanted to do that. But is that the first job I got? No. I actually got a good job, well-paying job, and with a lot of ability to travel outside my home state and to meet new people. So of course I took that. While I still have been interviewing for I interviewed for the job I wanted, right? So what I would say is that if you get a job and if it is a good one, it is not the best job that you are looking for, but if it is a good job, please start there because you are going to learn a lot by working with people, know how things are being done in the industry, right? So start there while continue to pursue what you need to get to the final goal or the preferred goal that you have. So maybe it is taking some training, maybe attending the other interviews, etc. Right? Or maybe even deciding to stop working after a couple of years, go back and do a more postgraduate or PhD or something that you would like to get academically and then change to the field. If you're lucky and after your bachelor's, you are able to get into a VLSI field that you are looking for, perfect. Also, career is not like a sequential step, right? So this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. It's not going like that. So it will be, sometimes it will be a few steps, then it might be flat, then it may come down, it may move left and right, then it may go up, right? So don't imagine career is a sequential step, square waveform going up and up. It could have many twists and turns. Be prepared for that, be realistic, have always have high standards for yourself, but don't be disappointed if things are not exactly going the way you imagined it would be, right? Maybe we have to move. Maybe, we may have to, give some preference to our financial stability. Maybe we'll have to take care of the family, etc., right? Getting the VLSI job is not the only thing. And ultimately, you have to do what will make you happy. That's what I would say.
So you have said like we should start with any job, but does it mean that, for example, if we get a job in IT sector in our beginning of the right after BTech, so should we join that one or should we go further to get a VLSI job in the first go? What is your opinion?
Well, that's a tough one. It depends on all your situation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you are, you are looking to get a VLSI job, and then you are in the middle of interviewing for multiple jobs, and then maybe if you go for an IT job at that time, it could become a distraction to you from studying or preparing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then don't go. But if you can manage both together, definitely go, right? So it all depends on your capacity, where the job is. Are you going to enjoy the job? When you take up a job, ask this question: What are you looking for? Are you
Mm-hmm.
looking to gain some experience? Are you looking to meet people and how things work in the industry? Are you trying to learn a technology? Maybe it might be an IT job, but maybe you will pick up Python there, right? So maybe it is useful for your IC design job later for scripting or automation or things like that. So consider all aspects. So there is no right or wrong answer here, right? So what you need to do is look at your own situation, and what might be right for you, may not be right for me. One thing I would say is that don't think too much about these kind of things and stress yourself. Talk to people you trust, maybe your friends at school, maybe your parents, maybe your teachers, maybe your friends in the industry. Talk to anybody that you trust, and
Mm-hmm.
then quickly form an opinion and move forward, right? um, uh, Sitting and thinking and creating stress for yourself while not doing anything is more of a problem. I am
Yes.
okay with you if you continue to study for VLSI, that's great. Or if you want to take a job and continue to study while having the job, that is fine. You want to stop studying and go do this job and see how it works for 2 3 years, that's also fine. But having this dilemma, creating stress for yourself and people around you, that is totally unacceptable.
Yeah, and sometimes like we feel like if we take a job, right? For example, for my case, like right after BTech, I went for a IT job because I need the money that time, and I also thought like if I take a job, it will take my 1 2 year because I need to be that job, and after that only I go to like I will be able to go to VLSI industry, right? So like you are already 30 plus year of experience in this industry. So do you think that those initial 1 2 year do they matter a lot, or it's like in a long like timeline, those 1 2 year not so like important actually, like what we are thinking of right now?
Yeah, let's look at my case, right? So
Mm-hmm.
uh, initially, for about 6 months, I worked in, instrumentation and automation, which we call it a factory automation or industrial automation or IoT today. At that time, we didn't call it that way. So I worked there for 6 months. Did I learn anything? Yes, definitely. How to work with people, how to manage people, right? How to
Mm-hmm.
run the systematically run things in a factory, etc. I met a lot of new friends who are my friends still today, right? So I'm very happy about it. I saw a different part of India. I saw the livelihood of the people, etc. But after that, 2 or 3 years I spent in ASIC design. But then as circumstances would happen, I would change to system engineering, PCB design, system design, etc. Right. So I spent about 3 years in VLSI design. But today, if you ask me anything about VLSI design, I'm not that VLSI designer anymore, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and those 2 3 years, did I gain a lot? Yes, I would say I again met a different set of people, different part of India, different type of work environment. Picked up the basics of circuit design there, which is applicable for whether you're doing analog design, digital design, system design. There are generic principles. So did me spending an additional 3 years in system design from the beginning would have made any difference today? Absolutely not. I don't think so. So, in the big picture, in the long game, these things
Mm-hmm.
don't matter. How you treat people, how you approach, how you respond to people, those kind of things matter a lot rather than what you did in the school or what you learned 30 years back, right? So now 30 years, I learned something 30 years back. Is it still equally applicable today? Maybe the Kirchhoff laws and Ohm's law and all still the same, but some of the techniques we use for circuit design, the CAD tools are different. The scripting languages we use are different. Do we use schematic entry anymore? Not at all, right? So things have
Yeah.
changed a lot. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Whatever time one thing we don't have is time, right? We cannot create time. Time will pass. So whatever you do, make sure you spend your time well. Either you should, you should get happiness out of it. You should learn something out of it. You should be able to meet new people. You should be able to meet see new places. Things should be, if you look back at that time, you shouldn't regret it. So spend time wisely. That's all I would say. I wouldn't say spend time on A or B. We cannot predict the future, so we can only control the present. So use the present wisely, then it will become a good history, or it will add to your past.
In VLSI industry, we need coding. Coding is there. So that IT experience actually helped me. And this thing currently many fresher, like they don't feel that. They feel if we take IT job, that 2 year is gone. Like we have nothing to take from that job. But I think, from your answer, it is clear that learning is important. Like you can do anything, but you can get something from that. And IT or VLSI are actually very, very much joined, right? Because we need software knowledge also, like coding knowledge, when we are doing our VLSI design.
That's a great, you gave a great example, Rajdeep, right? So I fully concur with what you said, right? So the experience and the technologies you gain by working somewhere, having that reliable cadence, getting into the groove of how to work in the industry, that is invaluable training, right? So that you get. If you just sit at home, or if you're just studying, you won't get that perspective, right? So, if you can, handle studying and working together, that is great. But many of us won't be able to do that. So, working for a few years and then going back, getting your master's is all fine, right? So, being flexible is one of the main things for being successful, right? So don't hit hard against an obstacle and try to overcome. You should be able to go around the obstacle and go past that, right? So many different ways to the final destination. Take it what is more appropriate and convenient for you. There is not just one correct way and one wrong. All other ways are wrong. I don't believe that in that kind of an approach.
Like you have said, like go to work and then you can do your masters if you want to. But before that, I want to know your story. Like when you moved to US, like you started your career, probably many of my audience and I was never, like we haven't born that time. Okay, so we want to know that story, like how you started, and after that how you moved to US.
It will be actually disingenuous for me to say that I have all my plans ready and that this was per design and I just executed. No, I was not a movie director. I didn't have the script, right? So my interest was in circuit design. So I wanted to have something related to hardcore electronics for my job when I finished my bachelor's. And I started off with the first job I got, which was in instrumentation. Right. So, but I continued to interview for what I wanted, which was for logic design, circuit design, etc. And after 6 months, I got this job. So there was no question in my mind. I switched over to this VLSI design job. And after working in the VLSI design industry, what I saw was that because of other economic constraints, we have completed a few designs. And I got training, so I went through the whole, small ASIC design process from the beginning to the end. Most of the front end process, back end was not being done by us; it will be done by the fabricating company. But because of the economic situation at that time in India, right? So we needed to fabricate it overseas, and foreign exchange was very difficult to get. So red tape was a problem. So we finished the 3 designs in my, meaning our small team finished the 3 designs. So it was a good experience, but we never got to fabricate it or bring it up or let our bigger system design partners who were outside our company, actually not directly inside my employer, to bring those systems up. It never happened. So I missed this hands-on, final product was missing. So I thought that what is the point on just doing design, learning some new techniques and then waiting, right? So I'm not gaining any real experience. I had this fear. So I immediately started interviewing for similar position in other companies, right? So while interviewing for similar positions in other companies, I accidentally came across this opening for a systems engineer with in a telecommunication company. And because of the telecom revolution that was going on in India at that time, because we were opening up and there were a lot of telecom startups, and also the government was also opening up. So telecom was growing. So I saw this as an opportunity to get into the telecom area. So I applied for that, and they saw my resume and they saw that I was more of an ASIC designer. So the interview was first like a written test. So a 2-hour written test in a luxury hotel in Bangalore. So I flew down there. Power failed. I still remember that it was candlelit interview, I should say, in a luxury hotel, and I took about 2 or 3 hours to answer these questions. I was given a bunch of sheets, and and each sheet had a question on the top, so I could answer. They said take your time and answer it. So maybe from 5 o'clock to around 7 o'clock, I was 7:30. I was answering it. Then I met with this person, and he looked over my answers and asked clarifying questions. And at the end of the interview, they said I did very well. And after 2 weeks, I got an offer to join the telecom company. And since I was interested in mobile communications and things like that, I took that offer. And when I went there, it was not ASIC design. Then they told me that I will have to learn about capacitors, inductors, resistors, etc. Decoupling capacitors, all those kind of system level connectors, pins, which were all new. So it was an exciting job. So I worked on it. Initially I started working on fixing designs that had problems, right? So there was an already existing design. It was not working well. So I had to go through the schematic, change the schematic, recalculate things, do a new layout, get the boards built, test, and make sure. So initially I kind of was doing a like patchwork design, right? Not a full design, right? Later on, I got to do full designs there. And I gained a lot of expertise. And then one company in the US needed that kind of an expertise. And they noticed I had it. So suddenly, out of the blue, I got a call from the US saying that we need this kind of people. Are you willing to look at relocating to the US? And I said, I'm willing to talk. And then they interviewed me. 2 people interviewed me. And then I had a second set of interview with them. Then it was all virtual at that time, means there was no video conference, it was over the phone. Then they wanted to make sure, actually, I am a real person, so they happened to have one of their engineering vice presidents locally at the place where I was. So he came down, we met for dinner, and he asked me a few other questions like about my background and all. And after that, they gave me an offer, and I came here to work actually in a startup company, where I worked for about 2 years. Then I found that the work was too strenuous for me. I was getting stressed out. I'm learning a lot. I'm getting a lot of things done, but it was too strenuous from a health perspective. So I changed my job and to another telecom company, and also picked up something slightly different. Got into the field of optical communications from copper wireline communications. So optical communications, I worked there, and I worked there for about 8 years. And after 8 years, I noticed that I'm very good at certain things, and the company is asking me to do that over and over again, and I'm not getting any diverse perspectives, or I'm not getting any diverse assignments. So again, this bug came to me. I needed to do something new. So I started looking around. So one thing I noticed while working in that position was that many times, 2-3 years going through a design cycle, we will find a problem. We will trace the problem back to inside a silicon SoC. And then we go back to the silicon vendor and tell them, hey, we see this glitch. What is the problem? And they would say, oh, we forgot to do, clock domain transfer properly. Okay, are you going to fix it? No, we are not going to fix it because that is one of the older chips. If you want to fix it, you use my 3rd generation chip, means change the whole design, which is not possible. So I was thinking that, okay, if you really need to do real design and fix it, you have to get back closer to the silicon. So that is why I got my current job. I wanted to move back closer to the silicon. Still not doing silicon design probably because I wanted to exercise my system design expertise, and I was looking, and then I got this current employment. And here I have changed my jobs internally within the company a lot, different domains. Either they changed it or sometimes I changed it. So actually today, we are talking today which is my 15th anniversary with my current employer. So it happened to be coincidence. A lot of circumstances. It was not planned out this way. So I never thought I will be coming to the US. I never thought I will be working at different parts of India or somewhere in Europe, right? It just all happened. I also don't know what will happen, tomorrow or next week or a few years from now, right? So who knows, right?
Yeah, so like main thing is like exploring the thing. Like for example, you said you are not a director of your story, and many of us, whenever we see people like you, like principal engineer at top semiconductor tier, we think they have a perfect journey. Like from starting only, they knew what they want to do, and they have a streamlined journey to that position.
Yes.
But from your answer, like we know right now that yeah, it is like exploring the thing. Take this thing. If you don't like, then take this thing. And by like juggling, go forward and backward, we finally get our thing right.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
if anybody has a perfect journey, I think it is only the bullet trains in Japan, right? So they take the same road, they come within the time, but that goes with a lot of planning. But I would say that is monotonous though. They don't have any variety, right? So they don't go to different places every day. So I think this is more exciting.
Yeah, and you said like you have like initial phase you are doing some patch design, not design from the like scratch, right? And we have a feeling like fresher or those are student, they feel first of all I'll get a design job. I want to do design from the scratch. I don't want to do verification, validation, or some other task. So my next question is for you: is that like what is the like there is nothing best and worse, but still if we want to compare its perspective of growth, then what is the best, design versus verification versus validation in the VLSI industry?
So is it a real choice or is it a false choice, right? Let's consider that, right? So if you need to take a product, first there are people who need to define the product, right? So how do we do that? We need to see what the problem the people are trying to solve, right? So for example, maybe the problem that people want to solve is like they want to have a better camera in a cell phone, right? So that's all the end user cares about. So there needs to be somebody who takes and translate that people want better camera for video conferencing, like we are doing Zoom, because everybody is remote now. So they want a better camera in their phone or a PC. That is a problem statement. So now we need a person, a marketing person or a product marketing engineer or a product owner who needs to define what is a better camera for this year or what is the better camera 3 years from now, right? So they need to have that perspective. They need to have the knowledge to develop that specification. Is she a designer? No. So does that mean that her job is not important? It's absolutely important, because the designer is going to design something that will meet those requirements. And then there should be an architect or a lead design engineer who would tell the marketer that, oh, these are the options, right? How many dollars are you willing to spend, right? So how much power you can spend on this IC? How much cost you want to sell this IC to? How big it can be? Depending on that, the best camera will vary, right? So if they are willing to spend only $2, then we can give the best performance for $2 and let us say 200 milliwatts. Now, if they say, no, you can have an IC that will cost up to $8 and you can have up to 2 watts of power, then you get a different solution. You may have an infrared camera, you may have a rear facing camera, you have maybe hundreds of megapixels, maybe, you can add artificial intelligence to the camera, etc., right? So it all depends. So somebody has to define the parameters, the framework, right? So the marketing person and the architect has to define that. Once that is defined, then the designer is going to tell that, okay, I can design something, it will look like this. There is an option A, there is an option B. Option B will take you for me 3 years to design. Option A might take 6 months to design. Then that conversation has to happen. When we plan the chip itself, we need to now have a test plan. So the validation engineer and the architect are also important. Some people have to do it pre-silicon, some has to do it post-silicon. Then some people have to design the system around it. Some people have to think about what sensors we will use, which company sensors. Are you going to use a company from Korea? Am I going to use a sensor from the company in Japan? What are the different combinations I need to test, right? How my customers will use it? What kind of test? I mean, you can do a lot of tests, but it may not be economically feasible to do every test. So you may have to eliminate some tests because the system will not be used that way, right? So the validation engineer is important. The system design engineer is important, right? So what I was saying is that all these people, all these roles are important to get something from concept to production, right? The quality control engineer is also important. So wherever you start, if you are good at what you do, you gain a lot of transferable skills. So, whether you start in pre-silicon validation or verification or layout, you should be good at what you do. And you should be willing to look to the side, to your left and to your right, front, back, and learn from there and move, right? So where you start is unimportant, right? So my own story is I started in instrumentation, then I went into VLSI design, then I didn't have any practical hands-on previous experience on system design, but I got into system design because they saw that I was a very good ASIC designer, right? And I have the fundamentals understood and my attitude towards work, right? So those things count. A very good verification engineer is always better than a mediocre design engineer, right?
Yeah. And if we want to change our current position, like for example, I am working on analog or digital and I want to go to digital domain, or I'm working on verification, I want to go on design or some other profile, then how to change it without losing our paycheck, like without losing our experience at that domain?
That's an excellent question, Rajdeep, right? When we work at any place, learning is a part of the work as well, right? So, 80% will be your job and it's, administrative tasks and other things related to performing your job. You should use 20% of your time for learning activities, right? That 20% is what you should focus. If you are doing analog design, analog circuit layout, now you want to talk about, learn about digital circuit, let us say front-end design is what you want to now move into. Then, you are working on a project. So there is no IC that is completely digital or completely analog. Talk to the person who is doing the digital design for your chip, observe them, shadow them, work with them. If they are willing to help you, work with them. What do they do, right? Once you start observing, you will see many of the things they are doing are similar to what you are doing, but maybe the tools are different, maybe the techniques are different, right? So shadow them, work with them, or even at your company, you can ask for part-time assignments if you can take up a small subsystem, like an IP or a subsystem, right? So can I take the design of the subsystem and work on this other project, right? So look for opportunity to collaborate with others who are in this field. Try to get people who are more, to talk to the people who get them to mentor you. So and also start doing small projects and see whether you like it or whether you can actually learn it and do it, right? So start small. That is how you start doing anything. If you just suddenly stop doing all analog design and from next Monday I'm going to be the digital designer, probably it is going to be tough. But you can collaborate with people, take up small assignments and go from there, and develop a plan, right? So if you completely want to change your domain into that, have a timeline, right? Do I want to do it in 1 year? Do I want to do it in 3 years? Do I want to have a mix of both? Have a clear choices in your mind and work towards that goal.
So now we have another question, like as an electronics engineer, do we have something beyond VLSI? Beyond design, validation and verification? And as Anil spent a lot of time doing some other thing than VLSI, like currently he is a system architect at the IoT group of Intel and also in the embedded system, so he would be the best guy to answer this question. But for that you need to wait more 48 hours. Till then you can see this video in my channel, or there are many other videos are there, you can check them out. Give your comments, feedback, I'll love to hear them. And if you still haven't subscribed to my channel, I don't know why you are waiting. Subscribe to my channel right now. See you in the next video. Tata.